Greetings from wherever you're viewing this video. If you're hearing me now, it can only mean that you have enrolled in an online history course at Mountain View College. My name is Dr. Ryan Pettengill. I'll be your professor for this semester. And the point of this video is to familiarize you with some of the guidelines, expectations, and requirements for this course. It's also to introduce you a little bit to what we're going to be doing in here for the next several weeks. And lastly, I'm hopeful that I can show you a little way around Blackboard so that you're more comfortable using this, because this will be our operational system throughout the semester. For right now, what I want you to do is put me on pause if you need to and download a copy of the syllabus. That's what I'm going to be going through here momentarily. But before you do that, in case you have not already downloaded yourself a copy, I want to show you where in Blackboard it's located. So let me go over to the Blackboard button really quick and start here, right here, this button Start Here. This has a lot of very useful information in it, including the course syllabus, which is going to be the first thing that pops up at you. Okay, so all you need to do is download a copy of it. It's just in a Word doc file. I'm going to cancel it out because I already have a copy in front of me. And when you're done doing that, I want you to go back and we're going to get back into the procedures. In a class like this, communication is really important. Not only is this entirely online, but it is also a very accelerated semester. And so the sooner I know something that you need or a concern that you have, the more options I have. And the best way to get a hold of me is through that email address that you see on the top of the screen there, or excuse me, on top of the syllabus. I check that email address very, very regularly. And if you can get me a message between Monday and Thursday before 3 o'clock, there's a very good chance that I respond on the same day. If it's after 3 or if it's on the weekends, it will be a little bit slower, but I would like to think that I addressed all questions in a very timely manner. As you can see, I am located on the campus of Mountain View College. If you'd like to come chat with me at my office, that's perfectly fine. I'm located in W243. And my office hours for this semester will be held on an appointment basis. You also see some office hours listed there on the syllabus. If those are not going to work for you, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and email me and we'll set up something to where it's convenient for both of us. I want to allow you to do a little bit of reading of the syllabus on your own time, but I do want you to understand what this class is. History 1301 is the history of the United States until 1877, or put differently, this is early American history. As far as the starting point of this class, I think many of you are going to be a little bit surprised, not in a shocking way, but certainly it's not where everybody begins early American history. Where I like to begin this class is a time period before Europeans started showing up in the Western Hemisphere. That world of 1491 and before then, I think gets neglected in classes like this, and there's a great big world that we're only beginning to understand as historians. So that'll be our starting point, and we will take this class all the way until 1877, a very important year, and you're going to find out why it is so important by the end of this semester. We will talk about all the usual suspects. We will talk about George Washington, and we'll talk about Abraham Lincoln, and everybody you would expect me to talk about. But one of the things that I really emphasize in this class are the people that don't always make their names into history books. People like Frederick Douglass, an individual that is going to be absolutely critical to the movement to abolish slavery in the United States. We'll talk about people like Anne Hutchinson and Harriet Martineau, people that if they lived today, they would be considered advocates for women's rights. Keep in mind, throughout the entire course of this semester, at least as far as the historical narrative is concerned, women are not able to vote. That does not mean that women are not out there providing important contributions to American political thought and making American history. So that's just a little taste of what we're going to be doing here in this semester. But I do have a point to this class. There's certain things that I want you to get out of this class. On the first day of class, for my lecture courses that meet face to face, I always ask people, how many of you would be here if it was not required by the state to get a degree? And almost nobody raises their hands, and that's not a surprise to me. Most people don't really love history. Most people would not choose a history class as an elective. And not only do I hope to change that, but I hope to change your attitude in terms of why study history. The fact of the matter is, history and the study of history does lend itself to the development of important skills that not only will help you when you get to those upper levels of your collegiate career, they are very marketable skills that employers today covet and desire. Couple quick examples. Critical thinking. This class really underscores the importance of being a critical thinker. I don't want you to take something that I say as gospel truth simply because I'm the guy that's grading your paper. I want you to explain to me what you think and, more importantly, why you think it. And if there are times that you disagree with something that I say, something that your classmates say, I'd like you, in the most respectful and polite way, to espouse that. Employers like people that think critically because that's where some of our most important and most lucrative ideas have come from in the world of business. More than anything else, I'm hopeful that you feel much more confident in your ability to write after taking this class. This class is what Mountain View College considers to be a writing intensive class, which means that much of what we do, much of what you will be evaluated on, is going to be based on written assignments. Now, before you go screaming for the exits, or in your case, the drop button in the online system, I want you to understand that this bark is far worse than the bite, okay? There are a lot of what we call low risk assignments, meaning that they're not worth, 50, 75% of your grade. They're worth like 3% of your grade. And so as long as you give me a good solid effort, and as long as it's very clear that you did what I asked you to do, it's not going to be really difficult for you to move in the direction of completing this class. But back to my point, your ability to write. I am hopeful that this instills a level of confidence in you as a student and later professional that maybe wasn't there before. And if you complete this class with an A, the nice part about a writing intensive course, not just mine, but anyone on this campus, is you will automatically receive honors credit for this. It'll show up on your transcripts. You don't need to do an extra project. There's nothing that you need to do after the semester ends. You have honors credit, and that's going to look really, really nice on your transcripts thereafter. Okay? And for very obvious reasons, employers very much like people that have the ability to articulate their thoughts, both written and orally. So another valuable asset to your repertoire when it comes to the job market. At this point, guys, what you should be asking yourself is, how do I get the best grade possible in a class like this? And I'm going to be honest with you, your goal, everyone's goal, should be an A. That should be everybody's goal right now. It's very doable, and it doesn't mean that you're a history nerd like me. This is a very attainable goal if you're willing to put in the work, okay? So to that end, I say one thing that you can do that's really going to help you out a lot would be to check in with that course calendar that starts on page 3 of your syllabus. And as you can see, You've got some very important dates there. It's going to tell you when your assignments are due. It's going to tell you what video lectures you need to watch, what chapters you need to read, what supplemental readings that you need to begin thinking about. And so I would check it out at least once a day, Monday through Friday. And I'm not trying to get you to really just focus on my class. This is what we would probably call a best practices in the business world. Making sure that there's not something due. If there is something due, that you're very prepared for it and that you're aware of it. That's a really good idea. Okay. But now to the assignments. That's what I want to highlight going forward because this is ultimately going to be how you do well in this class. The best thing that you can do when it comes to this class is to participate, okay? Now, participation consists of a number of different things. In my mind, it really consists of two parts. Let me go back to Blackboard here for just a second so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. I want you to come over here to the content button, right? Click on content, and you're going to see a couple of different folders, video lectures and the PowerPoint presentations. I want you to click on the video lectures. Click on the video lectures, okay? What you're going to see are three folders popped up. They are organized in the order that I will give my lectures. So let's open up Unit 1. And what you're going to see here would be the links to my video lectures. It's very similar to the video that you're watching right now, except it's got a PowerPoint that's actually embedded in it. And my goal in this is to get you, the online student, as close to a lecture class, the experience that you would have in a lecture class, as humanly possible. One thing that I want to point out really quickly here, these terms, these are the major components of my lectures, and they're what I want you to walk away from each and every lecture and having under your belt when it comes to what are the most important parts. They're also very important from the perspective of the exams. They're essentially the building blocks of my exams, and you'll see what I'm talking about a little bit later in the semester. But back to this video lecture. I want you to understand that this is an important part of participation because this is the narrative. This is almost like a textbook. I'll be taking you in and week out, the major themes, components, and ideas. And you can't really get out of this class what you need to be successful unless you're watching these things, okay? I want to go back to content for just a second, and note-taking is an art that ultimately you're going to have to come up with on your own. But if you look at the PowerPoint presentations here, I'm not going to open it, but if you were to open it, what you would find is that each and every lecture that I give has a corresponding PowerPoint, okay? A lot of people print these things out. Some people download them and then they take their own individualized notes on that. If that works for you, then good. That's why I put them there for you. Okay. If not, you can completely ignore them. It's just a resource that I wanted you to have. All right. But the other part of participation that I need you to be mindful of comes right over here in what I'll call the discussion forum. Click on that discussion board here for just a second. And what you're going to find here are 5 discussion forums that are ready to go. And if you wanted to, what you could do is you could do all 5 tonight. Now, I wouldn't really recommend that, but if you wanted to make sure that you did them, that's one way to make sure that you got credit for them. But these discussion forums are going to ultimately lead us into a semester-long conversation. And the most important thing that you can do is to complete them, all right? I'm not necessarily grading on content, I'm grading on completion. So what I want you to do, for example, in this week, you have discussion forum 1 that's due. I'm mousing over it. You can see that there's a link that I need you to go through and be familiar with and use the content of that link to answer the central question here. What you'll do after you have a little bit under your belt is you'll click on discussion forum 1. And what I want you to do is click this button right here, create a thread. That lets me know that you completed this assignment. Now, ideally, what will happen over the course of the semester is you will reach out to at least one of your classmates and engage them in a conversation. So and so, I agree with you on this point and that point, but I think that you're way off when it comes to this other point over here. Hopefully, at one point in the semester, that happens. The next important part for racking up a lot of points is going to come to you in the context of your quizzes. So click on the quizzes button as I just did. And again, what you're going to see is 6 quizzes that are essentially open note and open book that are already ready for you to go, beginning with quiz 1 up here, which is due a little bit later this week. Now the quizzes are going to be a little bit more they're graded a little bit more critically than the discussion forums. There are some things that I need you to get out of it, but again, as long as you're putting forward a good solid effort, there's no reason why you shouldn't get full credit for each and every quiz. These quizzes are worth 3 points each. The class itself is based on a 100-point scale, and I'll talk about that in a second. But in any case, the quizzes are worth 3 points apiece. There are 6 of them, but that last quiz, quiz 6, that's essentially extra credit. If you do it and you do it well, you can earn up to 3 points of extra credit. If you don't do it, it will not hurt your overall score. As you can see, many times what the quizzes will ask you to do, quiz 1 is a bit of an exception, but quiz 2 will ask you to download this PDF, a primary document, and use it to answer the central question in quiz 2. So those are the quizzes, and collectively they are worth 15% of your cumulative grade. Now, I'll be honest with you, the papers are going to become heavier lifting. They just are. The good news is I've given you all the resources that you could want when it comes to doing well on them, and I've also given you the question that I will ask you weeks ahead of schedule. So paper 1 is going to be worth 10% of your cumulative grade. You're going to have 2 papers that are due throughout the semester, each of which are worth 10% for a grand total of 20% of your cumulative grade. And they're going to be 2 to 3 pages in length, so not a lot, but they're going to ask you a central question that will ultimately correspond to some of your supplemental readings. For example, paper 1 dovetails with the book that you're reading by Frederick Douglass, My Bondage and My Freedom. If you wanted to, what you could do is you could click on this link right here, paper 1, and you can download a copy of the question that I'm going to ask you, and you can have that in the back of your mind as you're reading through Douglass, as you're watching those video lectures throughout the course of the semester. Paper 1 resources, if you look at this link right here, and as you'll notice there's a paper 2 resources folder as well. These are video lectures similar to the one that you're watching right now, but what they'll do is they'll help you break down that reading and kind of implement it toward the central question of the paper. Highly recommend them, especially when it comes to getting out of what those books that I need you to get out of. So those are the papers, 20% of your cumulative score. The last element of the class would be your exams, right? You're going to see 2 exams. One would be a midterm exam, the other would be a final exam. Both of them are going to consist of multiple choice questions, short written answer questions, and one long essay question. If you were to open up the exams tab of Blackboard, you would find a copy of both the midterm review guide as well as the final exam review guide. Similar to the papers, there are video lecture resources that will, I like to think of it as getting your brain moving in the correct, into the proper direction when it comes to preparation for at least the written portions of that exam. But each of those exams are worth 25% of your cumulative grade. That is a grand total of 100 points. I grade on a 100-point scale. And if you refer to your syllabus after the section that breaks down the assignments, It'll show you my grading scale. I don't grade on the curve per se. If I have somebody that ends the semester with a 79.597432, of course I round it up to an 80, and of course that student has their grade translate into a B. I don't want you to think that simply because you got close to an 80, you got a 76, that of course I would pay that forward, okay? I like to give students every benefit of the doubt, but it's ultimately something that you're going to need to earn. But I'm hopeful that after watching this video, you have more confidence in not only completing this class, but completing with a grade that you're highly, highly satisfied. Because at the end of the day, that really is my goal for you when you walk out of this class. I want you to complete, and I want you to have a better understanding of American history, what it means to be an American, and how we got to this point in our history as a nation. For right now, guys, that's all the time I need. I'm hopeful that you have a much better understanding of what to expect over the course of the next few weeks. But of course, if you do not, if you have a question, if there's something I can do to provide a little bit more clarity, you know how to get a hold of me. I'll see you later, and it's been nice chatting with you so far.